Oh, you're good. I'm ready. I think. I don't know.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to After Hours. I'm sorry that we're getting a little bit of a late start. We had some technical issues. Bill had something come up last minute, so I'm filling in. So it's good to see everyone. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic and indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded.
And so I actually remembered this time.
Thank you. And then a reminder to anyone that's making announcements tonight to please come up here so those that are joining us virtually can see and hear you. All right, Sierra is doing our guests and visitors.
All right, we have two guests today. And our question for our guests to answer is if you could dye your hair any color that wasn't a natural hair color, what color would you dye it? So I would dye mine pink, of course. Nicole is our guest today. If you wanna share what color you would dye your hair.
I would dye my hair purple.
Purple, awesome. Like a violet.
Yes.
Love it. Awesome. And then Tonya.
I would definitely have to bleach it first.
Yes,
Right, so then maybe like a green or something, you could do it.
Very turquoise. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Both of you. Emma, is there anyone joining us virtually?
I don't think so.
I just added somebody.
Did you really? Colin.
Colin, all right, welcome, Colin.
I was like, there wasn't like 2 minutes.
August anniversary, so we have three. We have Rachel, who's been with us for 1 year. We have Sarah, who's been 2 years. Okay, hopefully, and then Stephanie Doyle has been with us for 3 years, so we're so glad you joined our club. Glad you're here tonight. And then we have some birthdays this month. So Ben's birthday was earlier this month. Laura's is tomorrow. Danny's is tomorrow. Mine is later this week, and then Eileen and Ben are later this month. So happy birthday to all of those. So we have some youth committee updates tonight. So Mari, our exchange student, just left. I think it was the end of July. She flew home bright and early at 6:30 in the morning from La Crosse, and to my knowledge, she made it home safely and is hopefully enjoying her time with her family. And so every year we're supposed to do a youth protection update. So I'm going to go through this very quickly because it's hopefully some common knowledge, but they ask that we do this every year. So I'm going to fly through it. If you have questions, please raise your hand. So just so everybody knows, we have a youth committee in our club, which is comprised of me. I'm our youth protection officer, so I make sure everyone has background checks and stuff that spends time with our youth exchange student. Lisa Cobbs is our youth exchange officer, so she's almost like our exchange student's parent. So she's the guardian and she gives approvals for her to do different things. We have 3 youth exchange counselors. So Brianna, Larry, and Sammy will be our youth exchange counselors for this next student. And then we have others on the committee. Laura Lee and Phil are on that committee as well. But also there's volunteers that go to RAH, help with Interact, which is the high school version of Rotary. And then Rotaract, which we actually don't have in this area. And then also our host parents and adult host family members would be some of the volunteers that would be included. So the district put together this training and they have a statement of conduct. So they are committed to creating and maintaining the safest possible environment for all participants in Rotary activities. It is the duty of all Rotarians, spouses or partners of Rotarians, and any other volunteers to safeguard to the best of their ability the welfare of and to prevent the physical, sexual, and emotional abuse of children and youth with whom they come into contact. So I think that sums it up well. So outside of our club, we also have district contacts. So Scott Horn, who actually is in a Rotary Club in La Crosse, is our district youth protection officer. Bill Pritchard, who's in our club, is the chair of the youth program. And Sharon Richmond, I'm not sure where she is in the district, but she is the assistant chair. So if you get a background check, she is probably going to be the one that reaches out to you to do some of the pieces of it and remind you when yours expires. So all these people are good to know. If you get emails from them, please respond to them. We have to do reference checks, which I will get to and stuff in a minute. So these people will be contacting you about that. So keep an eye out. So some key definitions. Volunteer would be any adult 18 years or older who are involved in a Rotary sponsored youth activity and having interactions with youth. That can be either supervised or unsupervised interactions with youth. And then obviously youth is anyone under 18 that we work with. So here's a couple variations, I guess, of abuse that you want to avoid. So sexual abuse and harassment, emotional and verbal abuse, physical abuse, and neglect. One thing that I learned during the training is, especially with our youth exchange students, they come from different cultures, and what might be appropriate here, like to go hug someone, might be uncomfortable for a student. So don't like touch students and stuff like that unless they kind of like go in to hug you. Just because that can be misconstrued, especially when they're new to the area. Volunteer selection and screening. So this has changed a little bit over the years. So if you are going to spend one-on-one time with a student, so our youth exchange student, whether that's driving them to a club meeting or going out to dinner with them, and you are going to be by yourself, the only adult with them, you need to have a background check done through Rotary. And it is a little bit of a process the first time around. You do have to do an online training, answer some questions. You have to fill out a form and give, I think, 3 references, which you just give name and email. And those people will be contacted via email. So it's always a good idea to give them a heads up that they will get the form. There's an interview. It's more of a conversation with Sharon. So it's nothing too intimidating. It says here that it's the club youth protection officer. Is actually the assistant chair that gives you a call. She will contact you to set that up. And you have to renew your background check every year. So you don't have to go through that whole process every year, just I think every 4 years. But you will have to complete a form every year to renew your background check. And they do reach out to you to update it when it is about to expire. So any questions on that? All right. So then incident guidelines. So if there's any allegations of abuse or treatment, the district does take that very seriously, and they will work with whoever needs to be involved to make sure that it is dealt with, and they will include law enforcement if needed. There was a crisis management plan that was created, I think, within the last 2 or 3 years that kind of goes through what happens in different cases. So if you ever see anything or you hear of something that's concerning, please reach out to myself or Bill or anyone on the youth committee, and they can make sure that it is handled correctly. And this just kind of goes in to say that they will conduct their investigation. So fun stuff. Are there any questions on that? Okay. With that, our new student is arriving very soon. So Ida from Denmark is arriving on August 16th. She'll be flying into the La Crosse airport at 10 p.m. So I'm sure there will be probably a Facebook post. I don't know if it's on an email, but you are more than welcome to come to the airport that evening and welcome her to the US, to La Crosse. I'm sure it's a very intimidating process, but I think it's nice to have a bunch of friendly, smiling faces there when they arrive. So she will be going to the Onalaska School District. We are still looking for a 3rd host family. So if you want to host or know someone that would like to host, reach out to myself or Lisa or Laura or anyone on the youth committee. and we can get you more information. The third host family, I think, is like March or April through July, that they would be staying with the host family. Like I said, they'd be going to the Onalaska School District, so you would have to provide transportation or bus or whatever to get her there. I don't believe the first two host families are Rotarians, and that's okay, but we will need help probably with transporting Ida to our meetings and home and to other Rotary activities. So if you live out in Onalaska or you work in Onalaska and will be coming this way, and you can help with that, it would be awesome to start the background check process now, because it does take a little bit of time and we will need help with transportation. So any questions on that? All right, and then every year, all of the youth exchange students in this area have a potluck at Moon Tunes. So that's happening on August 24th, which is a Thursday at 6 p.m. I think they usually have a tent, and you can bring a dish to pass and meet Ida and all the other exchange students from the area. And I'm sure Ida will be here at our next meeting, would be my guess. I think she's planning to play tennis and maybe some other sports throughout the year. So you're always welcome to go cheer her on and whatever she does. So. All right, with that stuff.
This is all the basic information that I said the last time, but I still need more people to help with sponsors and asks. So we did have like a little list that went around, and I'll be connecting with you this week. Just so you can send out a formal like message or email to the sponsors that we do usually have. But we want to try to raise $10,000. So that's going to take a lot of people's help. If you can start thinking of like teams, asking your friends, because every team is $120, that helps go towards our cost. We do have to pay to be at Riverside, but they have been really great to us for the last 10 years. That's really helpful. But yeah, if you have any ideas, just let me know. But I'll be reaching out to probably every single one of you to ask if you can help. Question.
How are you splitting up 30 teams? Like, what are the time?
It's not determined totally right now, but I know in the past we've had it where people can come at 5 to 5:30, check in, and then start at like 6:15. And some people work late, so they kind of want the like 7:15, 7:30. So I'm kind of thinking those two times. So that would be ideal. We don't want to go too late. We try to wrap everything up by 9. Any other questions?
You're gonna send the forms or the letters this week?
Yep, and it'll just be a generic, just send it off, maybe write a little bit, attach it. We've been doing the same things for like the past 8 years. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Thanks, Steph. And this is an important fundraiser for youth. It is the fundraiser that funds our youth exchange program and any other programs we do with youth. So we want to make sure that we are able to continue that. So service and social announcements. So the North Side Block Party at Trinity Lutheran, which is where Phil is. That's on August 14th from 4:45 to 7:30. I know some of us volunteered last year. I think we did ice cream, helped with some games, face painting. So they kind of just threw us in wherever they needed us. It was a lot of fun. They had a great turnout. So if you're available, I'm sure Phil would appreciate the help. So you can sign up on Club Runner under calendar on August 14th. And we are getting things going for our Shark Tank project, which was a greenhouse with Northside Elementary. More information on that should be coming soon. And then avenues of service is
Actually, one more thing. So we heard back from the district that we got the matching grant.
Yay.
So that just came in last week, that we got the matching $5,000.
Thank you. Yes, that's important. So we are able to give them $10,000. So they were able to, I think they're purchasing the greenhouse this week, if I understood correctly. So. And then our social for this month is Avenues of Service, which is next Wednesday at the Cargill Room. Registration for that already closed, but hopefully we will see you there.
Who's all going? I just.
Are we gonna have club table this time, like a reserve club table, so like.
You're in charge. And so Phil,
That two sheets of paper, I think we have enough for 2 tables and get after hours.
I think Phil said he was gonna try and get there early and.
Like on time next year, they get already.
Yeah,
You might be.
yeah, I don't think they have reserved tables, but I think someone will get there early and try and reserve 2 tables.
How many do we still have 2 full tables, so.
I know.
Eight, so eight
There's like
take
10
place.
to 12 people.
Okay. Hey, but then after at 10:05 the same night, we can go to,
There we go,
go from there to there.
there we go.
There you are.
That's a good idea. Awesome. All right, any other questions about avenues of service?
Oh, yeah, one more. There's gonna be some really, really good raffle baskets, so bring your $20 bills and you get 25 tickets. Put in for the raffle baskets and there's some good stuff.
All right, we have a foundation minute with Sierra.
Foundation minute, everyone loves it. So we're talking about another area of focus this week, so clean water and sanitation. And so I've mentioned a couple times, we are starting to look at doing a global grant. There's been about 6 of us from this club working with people from the Holman Club, the Downtown Club, and the East Club, and doing a project in Nicaragua. This community is up in the mountains, so drilling a well is not an option for these families. So they are spending hours every day during the dry season, walking hours, miles, to collect water for their family. So this project would provide water, rain collection systems and filtration systems. Our goal is to provide this to 100 families. So we are still figuring out budget, but that would be about $80,000. But with contributions from our club, contributions from the other club, I think we should be able to maybe even do more than that. But so more to come on that. We'll have a video to show everyone soon about the project and what we're looking at. But yeah, so our club may be participating in doing this area of service. And our club also has worked with this local club previously, the Mount Adolpha Club. So Lisa Cobbs was I think she was the main person working on it, you know, Lisa, on a cervical cancer screening project in the same community. So we have history with the nonprofit, we have history with the local club. So a lot of cool things coming up with that. I will be sending out more information. And our contact from Nicaragua that we've been working with in the nonprofit will be here in October. So there'll be opportunity to hear from him and how all of the money we worked so hard to fundraise will be used for such a wonderful project. That's all, so foundation minute.
Wait,
Me, okay.
I tried to do it, so you didn't.
No, I appreciate that. So about the pancake breakfast, less than a month away, we need volunteers. We need them the night before, we need them the day of. All of the shifts are split, so if you want to attend and also help out, totally an option. So this is a new event for us. The Doyles are kind enough to bring their alpacas and ponies. There's a chance, they said, that there might be a baby alpaca there. So that would be pretty cute. So yeah, Saturday, September 2nd, our club has taken the lead on this. It is gonna be fundraising for polio. We've already sold over 60 tickets, which is awesome. But I would like to sell, you know, like a few hundred. So please buy your tickets, share it with your friends. There's a Facebook event. Yeah, and then the next slide has QR codes if you want to buy your tickets now. I actually shouldn't have shared that. Buy them from me. It's better if you pay with cash, then we don't have to pay for the fees and then you get a little ticket. But also sign up to volunteer. Yay.
And you sent out an email.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep emailing. So sorry for anybody your tickets, but prepare to hear about it. Yeah.
Very quickly, so I know you wanted this printed out, we'll
Yes.
send it, but you can take a picture. So do you have tickets for
Yes.
people to sell?
So if you're gonna be attending any club meetings coming up, or if you want to sell them at your workplace, I have physical tickets that you can take, and then these are the directions to sell, and I can certainly email this to you. But we would really, really like to sell this to as many of the area clubs as we can. So if you're going to a meeting and want to give us a little pitch, maybe sit at the registration table and say, hey, do you want to see some alpacas? It's gonna be so cute, you guys. There's gonna be a coronation of the People's Choice alpaca or pony at 10:45. At 9, you can feed them, first come, first serve, limited quantities available. So yes, let me know if you want to help sell.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that? Okay, hopefully everyone can make it. Just some upcoming area Rotary Club events. Moon Tunes is still going on. I left the golf outing because we did have a foursome that participated yesterday. Marissa, anything to
I don't
say?
know where my Padres are, but yesterday, Brandon and Griffin and Bradley and myself played in the Valley View Golf outing. It's their Bricks for Babies, so they were raising money to build a hospital I forget where, somewhere over international. And then other funds were going to the Scott Erickson Angel Fund at Boys and Girls Club to pay for sports equipment for kids that can't afford it. And we had a great time and we actually took first in our flight. So it's pretty exciting. I was really proud of us.
Awesome. Well, thank you for going and representing
Especially
your
since
club.
Bradley's like, I had to get my golf bag out of storage. We haven't played in 10 years and I'm not a big golfer, so we did good.
Thanks. Willow Crescent Rotary has their Apple Blossom Bike Tour this weekend. I believe there are routes for any rider, whether you are young and not so great or experienced. They have lots of different routes, so you can sign up for that. And then, like I said, avenues of service. There's also a STAR meeting, so this is more for newer members. This is in person at the Capella Performing Arts Center at 7 a.m. Not until September 14th. So I guess there's some time, but there is a sign up and the information is on our calendar on Wagner.
And what page for that?
Yes. Sorry.
I'm not sure that they're meeting. I know that they were planning to kind of rework their curriculum. I don't know if it's back up and running.
I'll try and find out. This is another opportunity too for new Rotarians. They say that this is best for like those that have joined within the last year. This is on Zoom and it's at the district level, so it's more like how Rotary works at a higher level than maybe locally. But they have opportunities August 30th. So anytime there's a 5th Tuesday in the month, they're holding this. So there's another one in November, but it's at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. So I will make sure this is on the calendar. I don't remember if it is, but they do ask that you RSVP so they can get you the link to join. All right. Any other announcements? Sorry.
Alpaca Pancake Committee meeting after this meeting.
Anything else? Oh, okay. So Emma will be leaving us in September. So we will be looking for a new sergeant at arms. So if anyone is interested in that role, please reach out to Phil or myself, I guess at this point, or Emma, if you have questions about it. She does the technology at the meetings. What else? Mostly that's probably your big piece, and then attending our board meetings. And one other announcement with that, right now I am filling in as the interim treasurer. So if you have any needs for bills being paid, like invoices being paid, or you need to be reimbursed, please reach out to me so I can make sure that you get that quickly. And there is a form to, I'm not sure the best way to get that out there, but reach out to me and I will make sure that that happens. So.
Oh, yeah, we need a service chair and a membership chair.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Thanks.
Apparently we need a membership co-chair with Neil and a service chair. So if anyone is interested in either of those opportunities.
Service chair would be pretty easy. Those basically got the whole year planned out anyways.
Okay, so I don't know if
makes
everyone heard that
sense.
service chair is mostly planned out, just a matter of making sure all the pieces get done and is added to Club Runner and emails are going out, and that can even be assigned to people on the committee to do, but just making sure that it's happening. So.
Sorry.
You have a great job opportunity today, so like congrats to you for that.
Yeah, very exciting. Yes.
I'm not pointing the camera at myself, but I'm moving to Eau Claire to be a labor and delivery nurse and hopefully start grad school to be a family nurse practitioner.
All right, anything else? Okay. All right, with that, I will have Steph come up and announce our speaker.
Okay. All right, so tonight, we have someone, from Viterbo, Dr. Tonya Wagner, who serves as the VP of Academic Affairs and Effectiveness at Viterbo. Is that right? So we're gonna hear more about how, she will teach us more about building effective teams, creative and innovative new degrees, opportunities, and building, a great culture, probably in the workplace and so thanks for coming and we look forward to what you're gonna say. I think this.
Okay, excellent. Awesome.
Hi, most importantly, I'm also a Rotarian, a member of, or a Rotarian of the Downtown Club. I've been a Rotarian there for 2 years, and it's been a wonderful experience, and I feel really privileged and honored to be invited to speak here tonight. So my name is Tonya Wagner. I'm at Viterbo University. I've interacted with a number of you because one of the great things about Viterbo, and one of the things I love most about Viterbo is how integrated Viterbo is into the community. And we have that opportunity to host lots of events and to do lots of interesting work. So it says interim. I actually didn't update this PowerPoint slide. I was going to come here in the spring, and now I'm the permanent vice president for academic affairs and institutional effectiveness. Very excited about that. It was definitely a growth position. And previous to that, I was the dean of the College of Business, Leadership, Ethics, and Education. So it has been a wonderful opportunity to serve our faculty and serve in the community. Service is really important to me. So in addition to my work at Viterbo, I also am I am the chair of our regional workforce development board. So I spend a lot of time helping develop our regional workforce. I'm on the Great Rivers United Way board. I also serve on a bunch of other committees for other organizations throughout the region. Because if we don't give back, then I think, and this is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, we benefit when we give back. Our community benefits when we give back, and we have like a much more robust and beautiful life and beautiful world when we do that. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about connections at work. So I'm going to get a little academic-y because I don't get the opportunity to teach in the class. So my work experience, I have 2 trends. Both came up in marketing and came up as a professor. So I was a marketing director for a coffee roastery out in Seattle. I'm from the Seattle area. Spent a lot of time working in partnerships, and then also worked in the creative and technology industry. And then also was a teacher teaching intro to Eastern, intro to Western religion at the university level, and then combined those passions and taught in college business. So have a wide range of backgrounds, so some practical skills and then also theoretical skills. So I thought I would bring in some scholarship and try not to be too boring and give you a little bit of background on what is this kind of thing that's happening with connection at work in particular, but I think this would apply to the classroom as well. You all know the importance of connection because you are a Rotarian, and Rotarians know the importance of connecting with others and connecting in our community. Why else would we gather together for a meal, gather together for a business meeting, in the evening? There are many other things that we could be doing, but this is important work. A little bit about myself. I live in Viroqua. I always share a little bit so you can hopefully find a space of connection with me. So I live in Viroqua. I have 3 children, a 19-year-old who's actually going to be coming to Viterbo next year, who just finished an AmeriCorps year of service in Madison. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. My littles are 14 months apart. So any parents of littles know how crazy that is. So I am a very busy person. I'm originally from the Seattle area. I grew up just north of Seattle and then lived in Seattle for until I was in my mid-30s, and then moved to the Midwest. In addition to working at Viterbo, I also worked in the community and technical college systems and was a dean at Western Technical College and also at Whatcom Community College out in Bellingham, Washington. I like to bike. I run. I'm not sure I like it, but I do it to stay healthy. I'm a reader and NPR fan. And I love art. Like I love art and music and all things creative. So hopefully there's something in there that we can connect about. All right. So I thought I would go very abstract. Everyone who know who Friedrich Nietzsche is, you've heard of them, right? Go back to college. Thought I'd be. But I love this quote. Invisible threads are the strongest ties. It's the things that we can't see that tie us together the most. So just talk a little bit about this kind of social connectedness and why it matters personally. this is, again, there's a bunch of resources that I've provided for you at the end of this, but social connectedness matters because it's associated with better health. So people who are more socially connected have more relationships, and literally like the number of people you talk to per day positively impacts your health. That's not only true for young folks, it's actually true for older folks. As a nurse, maybe you learned a little bit about this, Emma, that a lot of the research in gerontology now is focusing on how do we get older folks connected with more people, because the more people that you are connected with, the better health outcomes. So there's a lot of emphasis on community health nursing, about getting folks out to the community, about getting people connected. We've heard that term shut-ins, right? Like the reason that a shut-in is somebody who is at especially high risk for negative health outcomes is because they don't have that social connectedness. Greater connectedness decreases symptoms of depression. And we've seen that. So going back to my son who's 19, he was a high schooler during the pandemic, and we were out in Washington State. His high school was closed down for 18 months and he had, Zoom the whole time. And then he started classes his senior year at the community college because it was like, why would I want to go back to my high school? It's my senior year. I've been out for 18 months. And then that closed down. And for me, knowing this research, I said, okay, exactly what you need to do to get ready to go to college and embrace adult life is you need to serve other people and you need to get out there in the community. Let's think about ways that you can do that. And this AmeriCorps year of service has been transformative for him because every single day he gets out and with purpose serves other people, connects with other people. He lives in Madison, he rides the bus. He has to, because he lives on his own, stop at the grocery store, connect with other people. And it has been, I've seen every single month his mental health improve, along with medication, right? Like I don't discount the importance of those other sorts of things, but so many people in our community are struggling with mental health issues, and social connectedness is a really key and important factor in kind of moving forward and getting out of this. We're post the COVID pandemic kind of, but we are still dealing with the pandemic of depression, anxiety, and isolation. And social connectedness is a really important tool in our toolkit to help address that. Yeah, and even live longer. Older adults with more social connection actually, not only do they have better health outcomes, they actually live longer. So I did put the formal references in here. If you want to go back and look at any of these studies and read more, there's a bunch in there. And I wanted to get this to, so what kind of social connection matters? I've touched on this a little bit. Social connection matters in a lot of different ways. And it's not just having a best friend, right? We know that when we have really good friends, that when we do really intentional service, that has a positive impact. But there's been, as you can imagine, all the studies that I've cited in here are from 2020 on, and many of them are from 2021 and 22. I wanted to really focus on what's been this recent surge in research that's happened post-COVID, because we had this huge social experiment of people staying away from other folks. And there are thousands and thousands of articles that have been written since then, talking specifically how social isolation and disconnectedness from others has impacted us and our well-being. And we know that. So it's been really fun to look at this research. But one thing that was really fun, and I found this, anybody else hate having to go to the like I was pregnant during the pandemic once and had a little, so I was extra cautious, right? When you're pregnant, especially when you're a older mom in your 40s like me, you're very much at high risk for other complications if you got COVID. So I was especially cautious. I was working remote, so I worked remote for 18 months. Every time I went to the grocery store, I wore a mask. I didn't go in anywhere. I wore a mask everywhere I went because I knew the science that said if you're over 40 and you're pregnant, you're very high risk of complications from COVID. Actually, it was near the same as if you were 75 or 80 and got COVID, the same kind of risk factors. And so I was extra cautious. And anybody else love going to the grocery store? Just because I'm a social, you can probably tell I'm a social person, but I love talking to my favorite grocery clerks. I live in Viroqua. I go to the Viroqua Food Co-op almost every day. You know, they know everything about me. I also go to the La Crosse Food Co-op and they all know me and pretty much know everything about me as well. And while I was pregnant, it was so hard for me because I didn't realize how much I got from those mini social interactions and how much that was feeding me. But the research has actually bore this out that while it matters to do the kind of formal service, actually informal interactions with humans very positively contribute to our overall well-being. So think about that. There is a study that quantity matters, like literally the more you have, the better you feel in social interactions. And this isn't an introvert extrovert thing, right? We all need to get our batteries recharged. This is a human thing. Right, that the more social connectedness we have, even in an informal way, I'm married to an introvert, so I understand. The more interactions that we have and the more connections we have with more people, the better our well-being is. Yeah, casual is fine. Even grocery store led to a decrease in depression. Yeah. Well, what did you say, Dean? Was there a good comment?
I'm just really in tune with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intuitive, right?
To the point where my wife says, you know, people think you're kind of weird because you interact with everything. And it doesn't matter how old they are. I mean, here.
Yes.
It's just not, just as a little aside, we had my 60th high school class reunion recently.
Mhm.
And I explored the idea of a third Wednesday event where we would gather again every third Wednesday of every month.
Yes.
And a week from tomorrow night, we'll be doing the third Wednesday at Artie's up on the north side. And we had 16 or 17 people show up for that out of the class that are still around. And so I understand exactly what you're saying. It's so true. And just one other little aside, talking about the grocery store, I was at a festival about a week ago, and I was by the deli counter, and I saw this girl, and I walked up to her and I said, "I'd venture a guess that your name is Bridget." And she said, "Well, yes." And I said, "You and I were at UWL back in 1963, 64. I haven't seen you since." And it was the truth. Bridget Cameron out of Dalesville. So we talked for about 20 minutes, or half an hour, reminiscing about the good old days. So you're spot on. Thank you so much.
Well, and the science bears it out, which is what I love, right? Because I think that's what I've intuitively felt my whole life. And the COVID pandemic just really reinforced that. And then the more I've heard about this and the more that I've seen these tests and the research that's out there, the more inspired it's made me to be exceedingly intentional. I have COVID kids too, right? I have littles who were born during COVID and thinking about, you know, they didn't go into a grocery store until they were 1.5 and 2.5. Because, you know, the vaccine took a lot longer for littles and thinking about how we have to now be so intentional about how helping our children get out there and have those kinds of social interactions early. Also, meaning making matters, right? So yes, while casual conversations matter, people who have meaning in their life also experience more well-being, and people who connect over group-based activities and through their social identities have better well-being as well. So that, I mean, again, you all Rotarians know that, right? When you're doing good work together, that enhances your sense of well-being. And I put all these things out here, they're kind of personal, but they're also related to work. So I want you to start kind of translating these things in your mind about how these things can also apply to a work environment that is increasingly remote and separated. All right, so here's the story. Why does connection at work matter? I think about, I had a story about, I have a good friend. I'm probably gonna run out of time, so just flag me down. I had a good friend who had worked at Amazon. So again, I'm from the Seattle area, lots of friends who are in tech. I had a great friend who worked at Amazon, had worked both him and his wife had worked there, and he had worked his way up to director of Alexa, you know, Alexa, right? So he's the software development director of Alexa, so very prestigious job, had been there for a very long time. When remember I was back in the coffee industry, I mentioned that. So back when I was in the coffee industry, one of my jobs, actually, so I worked for this coffee roastery that was like the hip coffee company in Seattle. And one of the things that I did some partnerships and kind of strategic business development, and we partnered with Amazon. And we got in their Alexa building it was actually called the, what is the name of it now? Fiona is the name of the building. The Fiona building was the, whatever is the next new cool thing. So we got to be, and what Amazon, this is back in 2013, what Amazon said was, what we need to do is create we don't want people to ever leave Amazon. We want them to stay 14, 15 hours a day, right? So you've heard about all these perks, but they went to the extent of like literally recreating the hippest coffee shop that they could. Like we could choose the art, we could choose the music. We got to hire all of the baristas, they paid a premium. We designed all of the decor for literally like the hippest coffee shop that everybody always went to outside of Amazon, built directly in Amazon space. So pretty cool, right? So it was very fun to get to spearhead that project and get to hear like that inside of what was the impetus, right? They wanted to create casual communication between their employees. They wanted to capitalize on all these things that we were just talking about, right? Like if I build social connection and casual connection with the barista, wow, well, that's really awesome. Then I have more connection and connection to the community, connection to each other, and affiliation with my company. Amazon's a smart company, we know that. So my friend Max, who actually worked in the Fiona building, and we were friends before because he had come into one of our cafes. And so when I was doing all this partnership work, I would regularly stop in. His wife and I were very good friends. And yeah, so he would come down at 2 o'clock every day and get coffee. And long after I left the coffee company, he'd give me updates on what was happening with all the baristas and all the other folks who were, kind of surrounding the coffee company that was literally in the building. And so during the pandemic, Max and his wife, Jane, came up to visit us in Bellingham where we were living. And we went for a really long walk because it was COVID and we wanted to be outside and be safe. And we went for a really long walk. And he said, I left Amazon after 12 years. And I'm like, wow, like you have like this, like the peak of your career. And he's still in his early 50s. This is the peak of your career. And he's like, I just don't feel connected. Just don't feel connected. And that triggered to me. How is Max, who's always at the cafe, was always there, just didn't feel that affiliation anymore. It's like, I can just, if it's just about money, I can do anything. Right? I can just freelance for another company. I can just work for any of these companies. I have, software developer and a really prestigious thing. I could get a contract gig, no problem. Whereas I've lost that sense of connection with the company because I don't go in, I don't see my baristas, I don't like walk through the door, right? And we heard this. This is the thing that happened, right? This is one story that's an anecdote. Who knows somebody who transitioned jobs during, the great turnover or the great resignation? Right? It was really not as much of a resignation as it was a great transformation of people who maybe hadn't quit before, just decided to quit again. All right. So why social connectedness matters for organizations? Do any of you work for Gallup organizations that do some of the Gallup engagement surveys or other sorts of things? StrengthsFinder is another Gallup organization. We're talking about strengths. So Gallup is kind of the leading researcher in workplace engagement and success and kind of the human side of workplace work. So they said social connectedness builds engagement. Big surprise, right? Social connectedness decreases turnover. Social connectedness builds trust. These are different researcher, builds trust and increases organizational commitment and engagement. And belongingness, feeling like you belong, is so important in retaining and engaging employees. That's inside higher ed. All right. So here's some things that we know. So Gallup is kind of famous for this idea of a best friend at work. Like one of the biggest predictors of your retention at a workplace is, do you have a best friend? Do you have or work spouse? Do you have your person that you go to that's just your person who is you have this kind of very close social connectedness, and that's actually one of their indicators. So large Fortune 500 companies will track what percentage of their folks have a best friend at work as a key performance indicator. And even more, so they did a post-pandemic, so this is research that's been being done for like the last 10 or 15 years. And what they found is that it's even more important during COVID and post-COVID to have a best friend at work. Regardless if you're remote or not remote, having that best friend at work. Brown and Lett also demonstrated that physical distance per se does not necessarily increase isolation or less well-being. So even though we love to have connectedness, there are ways that we could have mediated connectedness through a digital space. A tactic I used, so I was a dean of workforce development at Whatcom Community College for 18 months during the pandemic. And a tool I used to maintain connection with my employees, like I had a number of directors who reported to me. I would take them for a walk on my phone. I'm like, hey, can we go for a walk? Like, let's just have our walk. Like, because the thing about it is like Zoom and all these things become so formal. And the interactions that you have are planned and agendized. And you don't really get to the heart of the matter. So that like having a walk and talk was like having a walk, right? I hope many of you have discovered walk and talks are really great ways to build community within your workplace. But having a walk and talk with my direct reports actually helped us just get to the point of like, how do we build connection and how do we demonstrate care for one another that is not necessarily tied to an agenda. It was still mediated by technology. But we were out still amongst the trees and we were both walking, right? And both engaging our bodies and moving our bodies in that time. Distance connectivity could help mitigate the health risks of social isolation. So even folks who are those shut-ins, right? Even having a Zoom call with their grandkids was much better than nothing. Though it's not ideal as having your grandkids in the same room and being able to have, because we have multi-sensory touch and and audio and all of those sorts of things, but it was much better than nothing. And this is something that I found really interesting. And this is where I think the big transformation is happening, is that positive experiences with remote work were contingent on connections both inside and outside of work. It was kind of the crux, is that for many, many years, we have overly relied on our workplaces to provide all of our social connection. Not because we're selfish or mean or other sorts of things, but because we've lived in a work culture that's required us to, maybe commute 45 minutes and then go sit in an office for 9 hours. And just by default, we were spending more time with our coworkers than we were with our families or communities. And so we had these kind of water cooler moments or the walk and talks or these connections. And I think as a society and as a culture, we started to very much, I would say even overly rely on our coworkers to provide that sense of social connectedness. And when that social connectedness got pulled back during COVID, those who didn't have strong ties outside of work had a really challenging time establishing strong ties with those that they worked with because they didn't have a lot of that informal time. But those who did have really strong community ties and social connection outside of work thrived. Because they were able to pivot, right? Humans are exceedingly adaptable, right? As humans, we can adapt to the places where we find social connection, and we can adapt. We don't have to necessarily find that at work. So if you happen to be, I think, and Jabron, you work on an all remote team, right?
Well, kind of. Everyone who after COVID at our New York office, it's a pretty large lease. They're signed. They want everyone to come in 3 days a week. So Monday and Friday they work from home, but not. Just been fortunate that for 11 years that they would work remotely now.
Yes.
Before it was fashionable.
Yes.
So, but like you said, there are challenges, and just when I moved here, knowing I was a remote employee, I had to really be conscious and get out of the house and make connections.
Yes.
Get out, meet people, and Rotary's a big part of that.
Yeah, very good. So it's a perfect example of what I'm saying, and that there are ways that even if we're managing remote teams, how do we both promote social connectedness within our team? And how do we promote social connectedness for those same employees outside in the world, right? So I love this I know for myself during COVID, my mother-in-law came and lived with us. It was actually amazing blessing because we had littles. So we had, my mother-in-law, my husband, my teenage son, and 2 babies at home, and we we're all working together. Actually, I didn't feel that sort of isolation, besides not being able to go to the grocery store and get those kind of informal social connectedness. I really had a lot of strength to build on because I had really strong familial relationships. And there was always activity happening at my house. There were always things going on. We had a lot of that. And I was able to embrace that even more, right? So I think there are things that have come from COVID, while there's been many challenges, that embrace of how do we bring families into our workspace. I love it that we, how do we bring kids into our work world? I am not, I am not afraid to have, and I love having my children on the 1 or 2 days a week when I can work from home, have my children meet my coworkers. When I was out in Bellingham, I would say, okay, well, I had a 4:30 meeting with the president of the university on Mondays. And I said, well, I can have this meeting at 4:30 because that's the only time that worked for her. But I'm going to bring either Lucy or Leo, one of the kids is going to join me in this Zoom meeting when we meet. Because now this is my time, right? And that is an amazing privilege to be able to demonstrate that, but that would have never been a norm previously. And it's that holding up that social connectedness. Okay, there's references as promised, if you want to look some of this stuff up. But I just wanted to kind of open it up for you. If you have I have many more thoughts on this and happy to share, but just wanted to open it up. So we have a few minutes for questions. Oh, three.
I want to thank you for giving me 3 reasons why we've got to get together with my class reunion a week from now.
Yeah, you can put the cite sources.
We're doing it because we want to be healthy, we want to be less depressed, and we want to live a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, thank you. Yes, Aaron.
So Dr. Rick Kite visited us and presented earlier this spring, and he talked about building social capital.
Oh, yes.
Wondering if you could connect with his work a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I had the luxurious privilege of being Rick's supervisor at Viterbo since I've started, and Rick and myself have definitely have a lot of overlap and shared values. We were just mentioning this as I was talking. I think actually, Larry, I was mentioning this to you. I've only been at Viterbo 2 years, but I've been shocked over and over again about how much personal affinity and alignment with the good work that happens at Viterbo. And I think Rick Kite is just one more example of people who are looking to the positive and looking to service to really be transformative in the community. The sad, unfortunate part is that I have very, very little time to actually do any research right now. That my job is, 9 hours of meetings per day usually. So, yeah.
Could you comment on things like sports teams and how that brings connectedness to communities? I've just this year, for whatever reason, I've been feeling like there's a much bigger role that those play when we're all cheering for the same team, whether it's a high school game or.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the research out of pocket on the role that sports teams play in community development, but I think any kind of civic engagement. What I love about sports teams is you have the state, there's the what happens on the field, but there's the what happens on the side of the field. I think that's most transformative of you're sitting next to each other and having these informal conversations. And I think those kind of informal relationships and those relationships that happen at all levels. You don't have to be best friends with somebody to still get the social benefit from standing on the sidelines and having a shared thing to think about. That doesn't, so I say that if my husband were here, who is referee for 15 years and works in the sporting goods industry and was a coach and many other things, he might have a little bit more nuanced opinion on, how that's changed over time. Because I do think, like everything, there's more vitriol in the civic space. I think the more we can just spend time being open together and not talking about politics and not dividing over, left, right lines, the better off that we would be. I think sports can be that place. There is also, the realities of capitalism and competitiveness, also go into the sports arena. And if we could get back to that idyllic time, who knows when that was. All right, well, thank you. Oh, one more, yes.
Who's your work bestie?
Who's my work bestie? Well, if I say this, it might be, actually, I have a couple. It depends on the context. But actually, John Robinson, who's our director of our MBA, if any of you have met him, you have. He just makes me laugh. So I don't see, we used to have offices across from each other. Now I'm in another building, so I don't see him as much, but
He's a great guy.
he's a great guy.
And last time I just saw him was not on campus, it was at the Mayo cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I hope everything's all right. And I just came in for lunch. I love the burger. And I said, actually, I just came here for lunch too. I was sitting at home and sitting in my basement office and I just gave her. something.
Exactly. Oh, see, exactly.
I have neighbors that are good friends from church.
Yeah, just a genius and committed to service, so. Yeah, and makes me laugh. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us. Glad you were able to join us. I know it didn't work in the spring, so.
Yes,
glad we
thank
could Make it work, so thank you. All right, we'll wrap it up quick. Our next meeting is with the Hmong Cultural Center, I believe. Oh, we are meeting here. I thought we were meeting there.
They're under renovation, so
Okay.
we're here.
Thank you. So 2 weeks from today, we will be meeting here at the main at 6 p.m. So should be a great one. And then we will stand for the 5-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it? It's in the
Love, goodwill, and better friendships. Will be beneficial to all concerned and will be fun.
All right, I think this is updated with all of the upcoming committee meetings. A pack of pancakes is here. I need to get a meeting set up for the Ugly Sweater 5K. So if you're interested in being on that committee, let me know. I will send out an email to those that were on the committee last year. Soon, hopefully in the next week, because we need to get that going. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Here.